Okay. All right. So we will record part of the session today. We will not record the whole thing because there's stuff that you all will do in the breakout room. That is the piece that will not get recorded. But we will record for most parts whatever happens in the main room. Now, you all may have seen it. This session offers you 1.5 CCEUs, so core competency CCEUs. But for that, you need to be in the process and in the session for most of those 90 minutes that is expected. Yeah, and I guess that is it. With that, we can get started. Right, so welcome all of you. This is the first session that we are hosting from the ICF Bengaluru Chartered Chapter. And in that, the team and group coaching COP, which we've just got started on. And this is the first session, so we're very excited to have you all here. Thank you for registering, thank you for joining, and welcome to all of you. Right, so today, the topic that we are taking, and I know all of you would have seen it because you did sign up for it, is contracting in group coaching. Right. So we will cover topics in the COP. We will talk about things group coaching. We will talk about team coaching. We will have practice sessions like the one we are having today. We will also have some master classes with some experts coming in. But the idea is to have a mix of knowledge and theory and practice throughout, and that's what I hope to do. Please feel free, if you're part of the chapter, to reach out to me if you have any different ideas. Happy to hear that. All right, so with that, let's get started. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Okay, so contracting in group coaching, theory and practice. So that's what we are working on today. So I'm going to start today with some very basic questions, right? And again, please tell me in chat, what is a group? What, as per you, is a group? And if you've got examples, feel free to share examples. What would you define as a group? Set of people, different people having similar interests coming together, people with like-minded thoughts. We are a group here, absolutely. A set of people, more than one people, bunch of people without an objective. Okay. A collection of people, a set of people with some common characteristics. Set of people, more than two. More than one person with common idea, objective. In the coaching context, is a set of people with common developmental goals. Individuals gathered for a purpose, set of people with common goals, number of people. All right, so just to get very clear that when we talk about group, we are specifically saying people, yes, more than one. So, so more than one, definitely, but it is going to be people who have some common or similar interest or goal. So that is what defines a group, right? So for a group to be called a group, it needs to have something that binds it together. So it can be similar thoughts. We are all, like Shanti said, we are definitely a group here because we all have the similar intent of learning together. So typically any classroom will be a group, right? So anywhere where people are learning, so it could be, like an MBA classroom, but a classroom or a training program, that's a group, right? So where people have similar interests or common goals, but there is no interdependence, right? So for example, all of you are attending the session, but you may choose to attend it for different durations. Maybe some of you might drop off at some point. All of you will take away maybe different things, similar but different things. All of you may use this learning differently. So there is nothing that keeps you together, or there is no interdependence of what you do with the work that we do here today, right? So a group does not have interdependence, but it's walking in a similar direction and it's bound by something that holds them together, right? Now this is, and just to make my point here, why we would call this a group, because the big difference here is there is a team as well. Now, what is the difference between a group and a team? A team would typically be working on the same goal. For example, a football team, right? So they have only one goal to win the match, right? Now, all of them have interdependence. They depend on each other to win the match. They have to support each other. They have to work with each other. In the group, however, if one individual does not wish to interact with another, it still is okay. It doesn't really make that big a difference, right? But in a team, you cannot have people not work together. So that's the big differentiation between a group and a team, right? So now, having defined group, the next question is obviously, what is a group when it's group coaching? Right? So when and how do we create a group in group coaching? What would make you say that, okay, this group is right for group coaching, or these people are a good fit for group coaching, and these people are not? And what would you exclude? Once again, let's share in chat. Lata, to your point, team has a common leader, may or may not be. Some teams are also teams without leaders. Right? So how would you say that this group is the right group for coaching? What would you say a yes or a no to when it comes to group coaching? They should have similar goals. Aware about coaching, that's a good one. Bibarata says that they are aware about coaching and receptive to the intervention. So that's important, because a lot of times people end up in group coaching and think it's just another training session. Similar goals, yes, with a common objective. Well said, Anant Narayan and Lowly. Topic of coaching, yeah. So there has to be a common theme that they want to get coached on. Right? Again, within similar challenges, yeah. So they could be working on similar challenges. Broadly common goals, very well said, Nikhil. Desire to work together to succeed may or may not be. That's more a team thing, Kanan. Common objective to move ahead, sharing a common vision, curious to know about newer concepts. Again, may or may not be, but definite part of it is they have to have similar learning goals. So for example, two people want to work on their, let's say, confidence, right? They can be in the same coaching group, but they may define improving confidence differently. Maybe for one person, it is being able to walk up to anybody and have a conversation. For somebody else, it could be being able to give a good presentation in front of the board. So, but they are both bound by similar theme of, I want to work on my confidence, right? Or I want to achieve better work-life balance. Now, work-life balance might mean two different things to do different people, right? But the theme is similar. So there has to be a common theme, but individually the theme might mean slightly different things to different people. All right. Okay, so now one more question, which I've not written there and I want to ask. So who would you not include? So let's say there is a group that you're creating for group coaching. Who are typical people that you would not want in that group? Someone who doesn't share a common need. Yeah. Not interested in a topic or theme. Someone who needs therapeutic intervention. Yeah. Sometimes, it may not be a good fit for coaching at all, right? Absolutely. There's a need to be a common of there's a need person who is not homogeneous to the group objectives. Yeah. So somebody who has, Sushma, thank you for saying that. The boss. Now, when I'm doing corporate coaching, one of the things that I never agree to is to have reporting relationships in the room. So me and my boss cannot be doing this coaching thing together. Sometimes you might, and this is again for corporate coaching kind of environment, you might also not want to have two people who are constantly in competition with each other in the work environment, right? So if the dynamics are where it's you versus me, the challenge of getting them into a group coaching session could be they may not be comfortable opening up in front of each other, right? So if there is something that would stop people from really opening up in front of each other, that's generally not a good fit for group coaching. Yeah. So Bobby, I hope I answered that. It's typically that, are you going to be comfortable speaking about everything in front of your boss? Maybe not, right? Yeah. But in team coaching, you will always have the leader. Very rightly said. So again, a big difference between group coaching and team coaching. Group coaching, you will typically not get in, reporting relationships. In team coaching, if there is a team leader, you will always have the team leader in the room. We mostly have them, maybe not always, but mostly. So team leader is always part of a team coaching intervention. Great. All right, so now that we've got some idea for what a group is and how do we have a group in group coaching, the next question is, what is contracting? And here I'm talking relevant to coaching. And you're all coaches, even if you've not done group coaching, you have pretty much done one-on-one coaching. You've learned about one-on-one coaching. Some of you are experts at one-on-one coaching. So tell me in chat again, what is contracting? What all would you call, in coaching, in the context of coaching, what is contracting? Agreement on the process, brilliant. Rules of engagement, great. Very well said. Ways of working together, very nice, Sushma. Expected outcome, of course, coaching is always goal focused, so outcome is big one there. Seeking permission, creating buy-in, engagement process, goal, do's and don'ts, very nice, very nice. Yeah, so contracting is one, definitely in coaching, because coaching is always goal focused, future focused, so we do talk about where do we want to get to together, but we also want to talk about when do we get together, when do we get to where we want to get to, how do we do it, the ways of working together, right? What would we do together, how many times will we meet, and how do we interact with each other? So all of that comes under contracting. Now, unlike group one-on-one coaching, there are certain things that come into contracting when we talk about group coaching, and there are types that or levels of contracting that you need to go through, right? So now those of you who do corporate coaching will know that you will typically have a contract with the organization. You will typically have an understanding or a three-way that you will do with the manager, and then you will start working with the coachee to start creating goals. Now in group coaching, it gets a little bit more complex because there might be multiple people involved, right? Now, first is, of course, you coach with the, you have your contract with the organization, right? Now, typically what would come under, now, maybe again, tell me in chat, what will come under your contract with the organization, right? When you're contracting with the company itself. Goals. Okay. Goal, theme, payment terms. Yeah. So the way I would differentiate it is that with the organization, you typically do your commercial and your legal contracting in terms of, what would be the proposal and that getting converted into a contract and your NDAs and your payment schedules and all of that, right? What do you want to get out of the session or the work or the group coaching program itself comes with your sponsor or manager, right? So, and this is, of course, sometimes it's a smaller organization, it's a 20 people startup, in which case, organization sponsor is very closely merged. But if it's a larger organization, typically you'll have somebody in your HR and maybe your, procurement who will do your, the legal part of it and the commercial part of it. And then you'll have somebody who's the sponsor who's actually wanting to invest money or invest in the development of people. So I've broken it up like that, but this is not set in stone again. It may vary based on, what organization you're working with. Right. Again, if you're running an open group, which is like a non-corporate thing where you're running a group coaching program for people to sign up on their own, then of course, the first two levels don't even exist. Then you're directly contracting with the participants themselves. Okay. So, but in a corporate setting, you would typically contract on outcomes and purpose, confidentiality, reporting, what report when. And confidentiality is a big one you need to be sure of. What will be shared with you, what will not be shared with you, right? And this piece has to be also communicated to your group members, that what am I going to share, because this is where your trust building happens, right? What support you need. Now, if you're doing it face-to-face, do you need them to book a room for you? I don't know, arrange for other logistics, whatever. And scheduling. Now, this can happen at this level. This can often also happen at the next level. If they want to run it at a certain schedule, and sometimes they may want to do it as part of another program that they're running, then this will need to be discussed with the sponsor as well. Right? Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Now, coach with the group. This is where you start working with your group, right? Now, tell me this. What would you cover in your contract with your group? Here the group will be the client. Absolutely. Good point, Shanti. The group is the client in this. Ways of working, absolutely, Nitin. Number of members. So number of members is typically something that you contract with the sponsor and the organization. ICF recommends not more than 8 people. If you read Sapiens, the author also talks about that when human beings have groups that are more than 8, we typically don't work well together. So maximum 8 is the recommended number. Confidentiality, yes, right? In a group, we do not share stuff. Whatever happens in the room stays in the room. Process, roles and responsibilities, very nice. Confidentiality, goal, stakeholder, frequency, absolutely. So this is some stuff that you will, and my list may not be complete, feel free to add the stuff that's come in. Program session goals for group and individual. So remember, when we contract in group coaching, we talk about what are we going to be working on and what does that mean for the group and what does that mean for each individual, right? And it's okay if the outcome that each individual wants is slightly different, because there will be a lot of cross learning when that happens, and people will learn from each other, and that's where a lot of the learning comes out, and it's really great, right? So people will learn from each other. They will maybe even learn that what they're aiming for versus what another group member's aiming for in their goals. They may actually restructure their goal at some point and say, no, I think that makes more sense, and that's okay, right? So, right, scheduling, right? What is the timing that, unless you have very strict guidelines from your sponsor, you can do the scheduling directly with the group. Behaviors and norms, which is ways of working. How are we going to work? How are we going to communicate? Right? Is email better? Is a WhatsApp group better? How do we want to communicate? And what is the expectation? Right? Psychological contract is, again, what now some of the things that I'll tell you happens, and this has happened with me. I once wrote sent a pre-prep kind of a thing for a session, and nobody did it and came. Right? It was just one page of reading that I said that just read on this and we'll talk about what this means for you in the session, and nobody read it, right? And I realized that I had never set the expectation, and I felt very bad to start with. Why I just sent one page? Why did you read it? And then I realized that I never set the expectation with them. Right? I was feeling bad for something that I had not contracted with them. Right? So the inherent expectation was, if I send you something to read, you should read it. Right? But the group, everybody has their own life and their own priorities and business and stuff and family and stuff, keeping people busy. You are not the most important person in your coach's life. Right? So sometimes what do you expect is really nice. I was part of a group where I was part of the participants, and I remember the coach coming and saying, I am very thin-skinned, so if you have some negative feedback, please share it kindly, because it really upsets me. I want you to give me the feedback, but don't be too aggressive about it. Right? And that's okay to say, right? So, and I thought it was very brave for her to say something like that, right? So setting your expectations of how would you like to be approached, what behaviors are okay with you, that comes in. Okay, 1 second, let me look at chat again. Is there a coaching agreement signed with each group member? How do you ensure confidentiality in a group while also providing a safe space to share? So Shruti, I'll ask you to unmute and tell me, what do you think?
I have honestly no idea.
Okay, if you had to do a group coaching session, what would be because what I'm going to tell you, there's no set rule of doing anything here. Right? There are best practices that people follow. There are things that have worked for me, I follow. But, I think this may be good if you feel that, and this is just my opinion, it doesn't have to be. Is it required to be signed by all group members? So there is no such thing as required, and there's no such thing as you have to do. If you feel that it will hold people more accountable to the, what would I say, the confidentiality piece, it will make them take it more seriously, maybe you could do it. Yeah, Nitin, please go ahead.
I feel if the group is heterogeneous and you have invited those people directly, in one way or the other, you have already contracted them, because you have told them what is going to be there as part of the session, what they can expect as an outcome, what are they going to experience. There's some level of agreement you've already done with each individual, and that is why they are there in the group.
Thanks, Nitin. So I kind of concur with that. I generally hold people to their honor code, right? So I get them to say I agree, and and I think what generally does not make people share stuff is because they're also sharing stuff in the room, right? They wouldn't want it done to them. So I've never had, to be honest, I've done I think more than 35 or 40 group coaching sessions, group coaching groups till now, and I have not had a situation where somebody's come back and said they shared my stuff outside. Doesn't mean that it won't happen, but yeah. So you could try, you could experiment with different things, and if you come with a different way of doing it, share with me. I'd be, I wouldn't mind trying stuff. Yeah. Does it answer your question, Shruti?
Yeah, I think I'm getting the sense that it's more like figure it out, and it honestly depends on the group, how they how much they value the ethics of the moral code of keeping everyone's sharing confidential. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some people might be not cool with signing a contract, but I'm still a bit vague there on what to go for. Like, in one-on-one coaching, it's very clear that there is a contract. In corporate coaching, it's very clear there's a contract. So group coaching is still a bit of, for me, it's still a gray area in my mind.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. If you start doing group coaching, try it, see how it works. And also what is really making you want to do it, right? If you feel that you want to get them to sign a contract, do it. There's nothing to stop you. If it'll make you feel that you're holding them more, to the honor code, then so be it. Right? Like I said, there's no set rule that you have to do it a certain way. Do it your way, right? And try it and see if you feel that it's working better. Sunny, to your point, the problem is that with a team who has been contracted by corporate sponsor, they may not be interested. So one best practice that I've learned from experience is I don't accept people into a group till I have had that conversation with them that they can choose not to be part of it. Right? And we all as coaches, even with one-on-one coaching, it doesn't work if the coach is not willing. Right? So it is a two-way thing. So to your point, I don't take people in unless they have had that conversation with me and they have thought it over and they've committed to. And sometimes, and this is something I contract with the sponsor before I speak to the participants, that I want people to have that luxury to say no to this. It shouldn't be, something that they are bound to do, right?
So
okay.
I understand you would do this upfront as a verbal recontracting when you begin the session.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Who is speaking?
So are you saying you will verbally recontract at the beginning of the session that if people want to leave, they can?
Or I don't start the sessions before I have so I may have a separate meeting with them, which will not be a group coaching session, where I will actually explain to them what is group coaching, what we will do in it. It's like an orientation. And I sometimes have their manager come in and say that it's okay if you don't want to sign up. And sometimes it's not that they don't want to sign up, it's a bad time for them. They're in the middle of a hectic project, they have something where they need to travel somewhere and they can't show up for the session, so if it's typically group coaching carries on for like 3 months at least, if not more, right? So are you going to be able to make this work, right? And that's one way to do it. Okay, so in the interest of, and I realize I've clicked the next thing. So you also have contracting between the team members. So now that we found a group, we also going to have contracting between people, because, and this should be some part of it is where I do that piece where, how do we want to be with each other in the group? So this is not between you and the group, this is between group member to group member, right? What is right? What is it that you would want people to share? What is it that you would not want people to share? And a lot of times you don't have to tell them they don't share. A lot of times you say that I would want this to be a safe place, and what do you think will create that safe space for you, right? So that also works quite well, right? So people come up with this whole thing that we should not share. So sometimes even you won't even have to say it. Yeah. At that time, the group will become a team, not so much from the learning point of view, because there is still no interdependency on the learning objective, right? Two people working on confidence will go out and use it differently, right? Both of them becoming confident does not impact each other's outcome, right? So, but they become a group in terms of they may start supporting each other. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And what I am going to now do is I'm going to introduce you to the case study, right? Because my belief when it comes to learning is, and especially with coaching, is that we all learn much, much better when we do, right? So like I could, if you have to learn swimming, I could give you a manual on swimming. I could make you watch videos on swimming, but only when you get into the water is when you really experience what swimming is like, right? So with that intention, I'm going to now introduce you to a case study. After I share the case study, I will break this up into rooms. We will have 40 minutes of role play, after which we will all come back. All right, so is that okay? Okay. Okay, so just to answer a couple of questions, do we have sample contracts? Not really. I mean, for the first couple of things, I think it's pretty much the same as you just have to modify it for based on your offering. And like I said, for the other two, I don't really have a, I don't use a written down contract, but you could always create your own. Will you be sharing this slide? I don't know how this works. I'll just check in with Shanti. Do we share slides at the end of the session?
If you're sharing the recording, that's good
But
enough.
it's
Right?
being recorded, Nishan.
So most of it is on. Thank you guys. Okay, so we will share the recording till this point. Now, once I open up the breakout rooms, we will not be recording from there on. And then when we come back to do our sharing, we will restart the recording. All right. Okay, so let me just share the case study with all of you. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to read through that. And then I will explain what the role play is going to be like. Okay, so we've got a group coaching program. Participants are new first-time leaders in an organization. So there's a VP who's your sponsor, and what she's shared with you as the agenda is that she wants these leaders to quickly adjust to their new roles and start performing. But these participants don't report into the VP. They report into 3 different managers, Amit, Shalini, and Rupa. Now, in this group, it's going to be a group of 6 coaches that you will have. Out of those 6, 2 people are internally promoted. 4 of them have been hired from outside, right? So that's your group. All right. Any questions on the group before I share the role play? Okay, so I'm going to take that as a no. And this is the role play we're going to be doing. So I'm going to break you up into groups of 8. I think we can do that. One person might have 9. No, actually, we should be okay. We are, how many people are we? Okay, so it'll probably be 8 or 9 in a room. One person will be coach. One person will be responsible for observing and capturing the learnings that are happening, or important questions that were asked, shifts that happened, all of that. And the rest of the people will be group members. They're all new managers. Now, the first 15 minutes of the role play, we are going to facilitate a discussion and contract on 3 goals for the program. Now, please note, these are 3 goals for the program, not for sessions, right? But overall, what are the 3 things we want to get out of the coaching program? The second, after that, after the first 15 minutes, the next 15 minutes, you're going to facilitate a discussion between group members to help them contract on build the contract between each other in terms of how do they want to be, what would be their communication, what would be confidentiality, all of that. So Shruti, you could try this piece here and see what comes up for you, right? And then last 8 minutes is when we will capture our learnings, which we will share once we come back. Once we come back, the person who's the observer and is capturing notes will be responsible for sharing with each group. All right, so we have how many people right now? Okay, are we clear on the role play? I will also put this into chat so that you guys have access to this. Okay, all right. Okay, all right, so I am hang on, let me just share this in the, I'm putting this into chat so that you can read it even if you are in the, and Sorry, taking me a minute more than it should. Okay. And with that, we'll go into our breakout rooms. Okay. Okay. So we will probably have 9 people in most of the rooms. All right. So good luck. It's 5:34. I will message you at regular intervals and I will get you back at 40 minutes. All right. So see you. All the best. Enjoy the learning.
Yeah, and that's where I'm like, we didn't do the last
I
group.
know.
We were waiting there, so we were wondering you guys checked out, and then we came back. We were like, damn.
Yeah, you'll be
That's
fine.
fine. I'll go last. I'll just share, and then others from the group, please jam in if I've missed out on anything. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. So I know we had a few technical glitches with the role play not showing up and some confusions here and there. I think so some of you didn't get time to like really catch up, and I sent it out broadcast and you couldn't read it. But I do hope that, because I was in and out of the rooms and I did see some really good, really nice conversations happening. I think some of the coaches were doing a really brilliant job of being able to, bring the groups thinking together, bringing the groups, goals together, bringing the groups expectations of behavior together. I saw bits and pieces of that. So I think some good work. I understand that maybe for some of you timing may not have been enough, because typically if I do this in a group, it would be a 60 to 90 minute session. But then I trusted the fact that since we are all coaches and we understand contracting, we might get to it a little faster than a team member or a group member doing it for the first time. So, all right. So with that, what we will do is now we're going to spend, we will have observers from each group. Now, what I would like to do is typically only have the observers speak in the interest of time. So we have 5 groups. So we will go number wise. So we will go with room number 1. So observer room number 1 is, Feroza, were you room number 1?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, then I will come back to you. Then you take
Yeah.
because
I just want to be. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll go with room number 2. So room number 2, observer.
I don't remember my room number, so but if you can tell me which room I was the observer.
Okay.
We were 4.
I think it was room number 4.
Room number 4. Okay, so I was in 4th.
Okay, room number 2 is
Subhashini,
Jayashree and Shanti and
Subhashini
Ravi.
is our.
Subhashini, you are on mute. Subhashini was our observer.
Yeah. I was the observer. I think both the role players and did an amazing, very professional job in our group. So that was great. I think one very key insight that we gathered from our group was having the group agree on the norms first and then move into identifying what would be the goals for the entire group. Because experientially what we encountered that when we the norms or the anxiety with regards to whether confidentiality would be maintained, how do we operate together, that kept coming in and took a lot of discussion time from the first part of identifying the goals. So one thought was, why don't we talk about the elephant in the room first, get it out of the way, and then have a discussion around what would work for the group and help the group also identify what would be the picture of success at the end of that. Yeah.
Brilliant. So if you feel that, I think that's a very, very good insight. If you feel that the team member or the group members are not as comfortable, we're very wary of each other, so that might be a good way to go this way. Brilliant. I think great insight. Thanks, Subhashini. Anything else, or we can move on to the next group? Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the next one.
Okay, I was the observer for row number 3. And some of the, so first off, we never completed all the role plays. We could only complete the first one. And some of the observations there was that that the term group and team was being used interchangeably, during the discussion. But the good part is that eventually team agreed to that this is the activity where each individual is expected to identify higher productivity for themselves instead of a group. And it is not a team. I think they were able to agree. So that is one agreement that happened. Second, I also saw that in our case, our coach did not intervene during the discussion. So it felt like this group was only having discussion, which was in one sense very good because allowed the team to have discussion. Yeah, but then, time was, crunch. Anyways, time kind of runs faster in Zoom breakout. So, so that's another observation that I had. Another thing that I saw is that in our group, sponsor expectations were never shared. So there was a challenge I saw between what participants individually were expecting versus what the sponsor wanted from the group. So that mismatch happened, and it was excellent to see that the group themselves highlighted that mismatch. And they were in the process of getting together and saying, okay, boss, we need to also understand the sponsor expectation. And the excellent part of it is that the coach never intervened. So group was able to come up with themselves, identify these challenges, and they were on the road to correct themselves. So I would say, yeah, fantastic.
I think that's a very good one. When you're doing corporate coaching, you cannot not have the sponsor thing. But again, brilliant that the group got it in, but won't always happen. So as a coach, you may want to hold that expectation with you, or at least present it to the group, right? Because you may end up achieving a lot.
Rachel and Nitin, for clarification's sake, like in this case, the group got it is fine. But what is the normal expectations from the coach? Because the coach has spoken to the sponsor, and sometimes it's possible the sponsor has not explained the context of the group coaching for the program itself to the group members. In that case, what happens? Or in that case, does this coach tell the sponsor's expectation in the beginning of the session?
Yeah. So 2 parts to it. The way I would look at it, Bobby, is firstly get very clear when you're talking to the sponsor of what the sponsor means. So sponsor sometimes will give you very vague things like, I want this group to become more strategic in their thinking, and nobody knows what strategic means, right? Or I want them to be more confident. So similar to how we would do it one-on-one coaching, get very clear on what does confident mean, what does strategic mean, how would you know that this group is now more confident or more strategic or whatever, right? So one, be very clear on what the sponsor wants. Second, and this is again what I would do, and others can choose to come up with their own way of doing it. When I start the first interaction with the group, I will always present it that this is the broad agenda. Again, unlikely your participants would have done group coaching or coaching also. Sometimes they may not even be familiar with one-on-one coaching. So I would have an orientation session. I typically do an orientation session to explain what coaching is, how it works, what to expect, what I need from them, right? What is the kind of commitment, whether it's in terms of involvement, it's in terms of effort, it's in terms of time that I will need from them. And that's what I said, that I only allow people to, if they're able to commit to it, only then they sign up for it. And in the goal setting, I will always present the agenda of the sponsor, that this is what your sponsor or your leader would want to see in you. Now, if they want you to be better, more in control of your business, what does that mean for you individually? Now, this is what sponsor says, but what does that mean? Now, for some people, like I heard in some rooms, is just understanding what the KRAs are. For some people, it's, having some conversations. It could mean different things, right? So you build from there, but you will not start building goals that are completely, off tangent from what the sponsor's agenda is. So
when you say this orientation session, do you do it individually with each group participant or as a group, totally as a group?
Group,
Okay.
always group. Always.
And then individual has a choice whether to be part of the group or not.
Yes, that is what I do. But again, like I
I'm just
said,
understanding what you do. I mean, I live.
Yeah. yeah,
Thanks.
and but everybody can do it differently. I would in almost all cases ask sponsor to come into the session. So I don't always do that, but you can choose to do that as well. Okay, so moving on to the next observer. So we are now on Pankaj, please.
Yeah, so this is group number 4, and I think we did a very good job. Nikhil was the coach, and he let everyone. He facilitated it very well. That everybody. He kind of asked everyone to speak up their mind, and the first exercise of coming out with 3 goals were done very well, and very concise goal were covered, like clarity of role, clarity of communication, and the link with the organization and the escalation mechanism. So that was done, and I think almost within the time, or maybe slightly over the time. That's what happened is the second which was more within the group. I think it was further elaboration of the further goals, that how do we interact with the group? So how do we give feedback to each other, or how do we do when we want to give feedback, or we don't agree with the feedback, or how should we give the feedback? So that discussion was around those. My confusion was about this, the difference between the first and the second exercise. You're talking almost as if they're the same. I could have included either goal in either of them, because perhaps maybe the program as well, the group is the same, right? They're the same people running the program and the same people. So interaction between them, communication, all those goals remains almost the same.
Yeah. So if
I'm not
that
sure
is how,
what is the right thing, but yeah, that's how we did.
See, the thing is, Pankaj, it comes down to if you are able to kind of hold it all together, that's also fine, right? I think it was group 2, right, who said that they would like to do the norms of behavior before, and confidentiality and all of that before the program goals. That's also fine. So whatever is the way that you would like to, so do it the way that would serve your client. In this case, client is your group, right? Whatever would serve it, and in a way that you are able to do it best. So if you want to like keep it as one whole piece, that's also fine. So I do both things in the same conversation, by the way. But so it's the same session. It's not separate sessions, but for sense of practice, I just wanted to keep them separate. But you could do it the same together, perfectly fine.
Right.
No issue.
And I think we did right, actually. That's how we did, kind of doing it together.
Yeah, and I have to say, I was in and out of your group, and I think Nikhil, you were doing a brilliant job of just holding the space for the group. It didn't look like a role play when I came into your room. So brilliant job there. Okay, so we've got 4, and then we've got 5. So who's 5?
Yeah, hi, Rachel Kannan here. We were in group 5. I think Sunny did a great job of being a coach and having those space and holding the conversations. He did a lot of good things. He was very calm, composed. A lot of good things that we observed. Some of the learnings are basically, how do we really need to consciously ensure everybody's participation in the dialogue. So that is something that stood out. And second is possibly how do we intentionally set the objective or the sponsors thing in the beginning of the conversation, so that it doesn't go haywire, that all the 6 people come up with 6 different personal goals. So that is something that we learned as something that we need to focus on. And the third insight that we had was, it's more a mind shift in the coach's mind as to the temptation of actually getting into a coaching conversation versus setting the contract, so which we all go through in our coaching journey. So that is something that we need to be mindful of when we get onto the groups. Those were some of the learnings that we had. Does anybody want to add anything? Feel free to add in team 5. Yeah.
Everyone here. Okay. I think somewhere one insight was also around the boundary setting for the conversation and the piece on the twin hatting by the coach or facilitator, as well as the coach, because not necessarily at this moment were the coaching skills required. And insofar as they serve the agenda, that's the key to take away for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a part of it.
And I think brilliant points there. I think all points here, you guys shared some really good points. One is making sure everybody has a voice in the group, because there is going to be a chance that the louder people will take over. I think I love that point. It was really good. Boundary. I actually saw Shanti in your group also. You were doing a bit of the boundary of what will be within scope and what are we not going to be talking about, right? And that's extremely important to create boundaries, just like in our one-on-one coaching session. So brilliant points. Thank you so much. Feruza, I'm circling back to you.
Yes, thank you. And team, just jam in if I missed out on a few things. And Neha was our coach. And I think we did a lot of acting, overacting, and I think we had a good time. Neha, some of the things that I observed that you did really well is, this whole technical challenge with the whiteboarding and still having the conversation. It's not easy. And you kept that hold going through and through. Also, particularly, you used more of a consensus-driven approach. And you checked in at every point. Is that all right? Is this something we could add, delete? Like, it was almost like an iterative conversation that made the group feel inclusive. Also, you were adamant on those 3 outcomes, circling, kind of bringing the group back. Not something easy to do in such a short span with such a maybe, diverse crowd. Also, particularly how you were summarizing, how you were kind of recalling, technical challenges that happened, or can we focus on this? Can we just kind of nudging like a shepherd and, bringing people back. I think great job, really great job on that. Some of the things maybe that I observed that could have been done differently. Again, this is very contextual. This is very subjective. That maybe before you open the conversation, to clearly call out what are we going to do in this approach. Is it a consensus approach? If it's a collaborative approach, what will it look like? Just simple, like we don't have to agree on everything, but here is what goals mean or what outcomes mean. Like the same thing that we heard in the other feedback, to quickly clarify that so that you have anchored people into the conversation. Also agree that clarifying some sponsor expectations, either showing it or a video or bringing the person in or some confirmation, something just to collaborate that and kind of cement that learning. I think overall, maybe just helping people understand the difference between this whole goal, outcome. And I know that was contextual, but maybe sponsor expectations could have been touched upon differently. A group, you all can jam in. We didn't get an opportunity to discuss that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to put a step in and say that maybe we need to kind of put a stop here, because it's almost on top of the hour and I'm already getting messages of how people need to jump onto another call and stuff. But I do hope that the doing of the process gave you some insights. I'm sure you've learned from each other. I'm sure you've learned from each other's processes. And again, I have to say that make it your own. Do it in a way that you feel will deliver for your client, will be the right way to serve your client. A lot of it is like any other coaching practice. The more you do, the better you get, the more you refine it, and something beautiful that's uniquely yours will emerge. Right? So I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you for your brilliant participation. I really enjoyed interacting on this, and we will be bringing you more sessions from the team and group coaching CUP in the days to come. So hope to see you all guys there as well. So thank you all for joining, and have a wonderful evening ahead.
Thank you, Rachel.
You too, Rachel.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.